After a week of debate, the Tribunal sits in judgment of the Stephen May collision as the football world watches on.
As Carlton look to rise to the emotion tomorrow night, Charlie Curnow's future is a source of intrigue.
And the pressure of life on top. John Longmire reflects on the challenge of trying to lead all the way.
We've talked about is to step into it, embrace all of it.
Get in the room and fix it.
It's unedifying for a senior coach to do that.
They're on the side of caution with the brain. Take the man off.
They played the best footy I've ever seen at the start of the season. And if you'd said Brisbane lift the cup, I would have said, of course they do.
It's the stuff that legends are made of.
What is holding the ball? I don't think I could answer it clearly right now.
I could do something wrong, and I need to go, and the board sacks me.
The fans love it, and with no fans, no 360, right?
One of those odd weeks, Gaz, where we're still dealing with the events of the previous round as the next hurtles into sight.
I know, the Tribunal case that's had us all in raptures over the past 3 days is currently in progress. So we'll find out shortly.
We'll get the details. They're deliberating now. It's been a really interesting case. Can I just indulge me for a few
I'd love to. Yeah.
Sometimes we put up the next round and we just marvel at how good it's going to be. Can I just put this up at how odd the scheduling and inconsistent with the patterns of the season this is? So as a starting point, the addiction to Carlton and Essendon in prime time is laid clear. But the insults to the Giants and the Swans of putting the Sydney derby tucked underneath at 7:50 out at Homebush is just of no help whatsoever.
Yep.
The Q Clash, Gold Coast have just played their biggest home game against Collingwood. How do you build momentum? Well, how about the most important Q Clash ever? We'll give you the really strange 1:20 Saturday afternoon, as if trying to thwart a huge crowd. It's just plain weird that the derby is in the Saturday twilight slot. 2:15 over in the West. And it's disrespecting the showdown to have placed it where it is, underneath an all-Victorian clash, when it can carry so much. But the piece de resistance is what they have done on Sunday. There are only two games. They are both in Melbourne at venues nearby. We haven't been able to find clear air. The only start time of 2:10 for the year is Richmond and Collingwood. Oh, and then we're going to start St Kilda and Melbourne right there, just to make sure they're covered right over. If your kids brought you this fixture, you would send them back to their room and say, start again.
Sack them all, Gerard. Get that famous saying of yours out from Gather Round. That's patently ridiculous.
It is.
There's a lot of things there that are... The Sunday situation is just mind-blowing. So you've got that off your chest. Let me lift you up.
All right.
We will also celebrate 25 years of the Docklands Stadium this weekend, which the AFL, it's one of their prized assets, of course. It's lived through some controversy and some highlights. James Hird's goal when he hugged the crowd. These will spring to mind straight away. Jason McCartney's return and retirement after kicking one of the last goals of the game. I did that match. It was unbelievable. He had Carey and coming back to the Kangaroos and the Adelaide Crows. We had Hutchie calling at Death Valley, getting suspended. But nothing compares to one of the highlights of the 25 years of the Docklands. It's not the Jerry Springer show, it's the Jerry Waitley show.
We're about to be thrown off here, if you can believe this, Quarters. The two issues which have been resolved here today are the best seats in the house will now be sold first by Ticketmaster, and St Kilda will be asked to address their ticketing issues.
So let me just ask you while this plays itself out. What are you doing and what's going on here?
So these are their first weeks of Colonial Stadium when they couldn't get anybody in. So Ian Collins called a summit to solve the ticketing issues, and then I got thrown out. It had been going all day. We had been camped there as a media following the events.
Tell you what, the cue stick, well, you won't happy.
No, he was going, keep going.
He was.
I always thought with that security guard that we would look back and laugh at it 25 years. I came across him at the Olympic soccer when it was in Melbourne. We didn't have a laugh.
You didn't see the funny side of it?
See the funny side of it.
He was highlighted on the Channel 10 News. Oh, you cut a fine figure there.
The years have been a bit unkind, haven't they?
I wasn't going to mention it.
All right, here's what we've got. John Longmire and Adam Simpson, our favourite pairing on 360. Simon Goodwin from training at the D's, and we'll be at the Tribunal in a moment with David Zita. And then to set you up for round 20 properly, First crack preview. Ben Dixon is with Lee Montagna and David King. D-Day for Aussie Broadband. Who's it D-Day for?
Yeah, it could go a lot of ways. I just think it's really important that the Suns get back on the horse here. As you mentioned, with our fixture situation, they've had coming off their best result and then went to Adelaide and were humiliated in the fashion you don't want to be 6 weeks out from potentially your first ever appearance in a final series. They've lost Dan Rioli, the on-field man who's supposed to implement his plan that he's brought with him from Richmond. No one knows it better than Dan Rioli. Dan Rioli no longer there. Tuke Miller, their captain, or former captain rather, no longer there, playing against Queensland. I don't even think they have to win this, but they've got to get back to something that resembles the sort of form that has us all thinking they can play finals footy.
Little brother, big brother syndrome. They've never quite been able to shake in this relationship.
Punch the little one on the nose on the way back would be good. Where are you going?
Well, I'll go the Giants. They're sixth. They're 12 and 6. There's a view that they could really come storming through. For a while, they had a really good record against Sydney, but that's not the case in recent times. They've lost the past 5 Sydney derbies. In fact, they've only won 1 of the previous 8, and that was by 1 point in 2023. So Sydney have a hold of them at the moment. There was that magnificent qualifying final where they got run down from a big margin. So qualifying is the high bar here, and to find safety, you've got to get to 15 wins. So I do think the Giants, they've got the motivation to finish Sydney off. Sydney have to be perfect, and then a whole lot has to happen. Is finish the crosstown rival off, get back to work here and rise, because their footy looks like it could really stack up.
Yeah, they've got a lot of pieces. I liked Toby Green last night when we asked him about it, and he said, yeah, well, Ramps has got me a couple of times. When you've got that mentality, you're going hunting. So that'll be good. No, I look forward to that eventually when I get to see it.
All right. Top of the agenda, the debate has been raging since Saturday night from the moment that Stephen May ran into Francis Evans and left him bloody and concussed. Is this a careless action that fails the duty of care, or is it an unavoidable collision where accidents can still happen in a contact sport?
He looked like he had a play on the ball.
He picked him off.
I would argue that he absolutely thought he had a play on the ball.
To be fair, if I'm being brutally honest, and both sort of making a play at the ball, maybe one person was one step late.
Handball over his head. Yes, Stephen May cleaned him up the other way. That was a huge hit.
If I were the MRO, I wouldn't have put it up at all. No. A football accident? Yep.
It's a decision that's made it right at the very last second, so I'm not sure what else he could have done.
I don't know whether our game is capable of allowing that anymore.
I don't think he was trying to hurt him, so I think intent should be taken into account with the MRO more than outcome.
He knew exactly what he was doing and he picked him off. This is from a bygone era.
There's going to be those incidents 3 or 4 a year for the rest of the time. That's the way the game is.
It is both a test case and a case that needed to be tested. All the evidence has been heard. David Zeta has sat through it. David, welcome.
Gerard, Garry, hello.
How has it gone?
Yeah, so they are deliberating currently. Hopefully we have the verdict for you soon. It is either 3 games or 0. The AFL wants 3. The Ds say this is not rough conduct. Now, interestingly, the AFL arguing this is rough conduct rather than rough conduct high bumps. So they are conceding this isn't a bump. They still say it's rough conduct. So Stephen May gave evidence. He thanked the Tribunal for pushing it to Wednesday as he recovers from concussion. He said he intended to win this ball with Francis Evans, and he intended to win it until the very final moment. The bounce is what surprised him near the end. That final bounce before the ball goes back to Evans is what May wasn't expecting. And he even notes that his arms are outstretched straight after the incident. You can see here, if you keep your eyes peeled, his arms come out afterwards because he's just shocked that he didn't get the ball. He says, I just can't believe I didn't take possession. I thought I did everything right, so I'm just a bit shocked. So his evidence went for 20 or so minutes. Adrian Anderson is representing the Ds. He always comes prepared with reasons. He had 9 of them as to why this wasn't rough conduct. Just bear with me for a moment. So his first was that May was contesting the ball. His second, legitimately expected to get to the ball first. Third, both were travelling at pace and was reasonable for both of them to do so. Fourth, the unexpected bounce of the ball. Fifth, he realises Evans is there, but by that point it's too late to change tact. Sixth, he doesn't move off his line. 7th, doesn't tuck in his elbow or rotate, doesn't jump off the ground in what would be a bumping motion. 8th, he attempts to slow at the end, even though it was too late. And 9th, May is significantly taller than Evans. The AFL didn't spend as much time going through their arguments. They say that May knew Evans was going to get his hands to the ball from a few steps out, so he already knew what was going to take place. They say his conduct was a breach of the duty of care he was owed. He should have understood that the ball can bounce unpredictably, and ultimately they say he should have changed his momentum or trajectory. So we've had a biomechanist, we've had a text exchange, mentioned all the tribunal hallmarks, but ultimately this case coming down to what the AFL thinks is reasonable in the circumstances, the tribunal rather, and they've just gone to deliberate as of about 15 minutes ago.
All right, well, we'll be back with you shortly, David, once you've got a verdict. So what do you hear there, Gav?
No bump, Gerard. Throw it out. What are they saying? They're saying he didn't bump him, so what was he doing? He's trying to win the footy, wasn't he?
It's a weak case.
Sounds like
the
it.
AFL.
And they say, and then they mention the unpredictable bounce. That's right. It can bounce anyway. It can bounce left, right, up, or just stay on the ground. No reasonable player. If a reasonable player could tell you which way the ball's going to bounce, he'd win 6 Brownlows.
Yes.
So, anyway, it does seem a bit weak to me, but I'm not the expert. You are. What do you
It's
think?
hard to pin down exactly what Stephen May did wrong, and I think that's what the prosecution has struggled with. So the concession that there's no bump, but he should have changed his momentum and trajectory, the idea that a reasonable player knows the ball is going to bounce weirdly, well, that's of no help to
That's
anybody.
a nonsense. Yeah. But that part of it is a nonsense.
Yeah. So I think they've struggled to make their case.
Sounds
And
like
Stephen May is perfectly reasonable in the way that he explained. He thought he was going to get to the ball first. And the way the ball was bouncing gave him faith in that. And then it bounced in an unexpected manner.
Yeah. No, it sounds like that they've done a good job, and I don't think the AFL. It doesn't sound anyway. You and David are the experts in this. It doesn't sound to me like they've prosecuted it enormously well. So there would be some hope from a Melbourne point of view.
Yeah. No, I'm open to being surprised with these things, but I would be severely surprised if the AFL's case was successful, and it would be open to appeal on any number of fronts if they came up with a guilty verdict. So we'll wait to see. Tomorrow night, the round gets underway at the MCG. It has been enhanced as a spectacle by the emotion that Carlton will feel. Jacob Wiedering in game 200 and his close friend Sam Doherty in the navy blue for the last time.
He's been a significant person. His counsel is always sought when we're trying to do things and to get his thoughts on things. He's been a really important mentor to our leadership group, and just to bring a different perspective. He's a deep thinker about the game, Doc, and he's very passionate about his football club. So we're hoping that clearly we go out tomorrow and we can do justice to that.
Been dealt the cards of the villain for this one. He's obviously just a fantastic story. I think it's inspiration for, and I think the thing about Sam is it's beyond sport. He's got the 3 knee reconstructions and come back from that, and still being an All-Australian type player. But then obviously his cancer treatments and coming back from that means it transcends sport, and it's such a inspirational person that he's been. And other than the 2 hours that we're on the field, we'll certainly be trying to ruin his party tomorrow night. But after that, certainly think he's one of the players of this season that needs to be celebrated.
In late July, when you've been out of business for a while, you're clutching for a purpose, for a cause. Carlton have been delivered that tomorrow night. I wonder if they're able to honour it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they will, but it only lasts for a period of time. And then throughout moments in the game when Sam's involved, and we'd all love to see him kick a goal, or there was a moment in the game last week where he went back really hard and was involved in just an intercept. I mean, all those things are going to mean a lot. And the ones that are really close to him, Wiedering and Cripps will be feeling it pretty heavily, and you can harness that in whatever way you want. But, and then you just go dispassionately to look at it. They look better as a side with Akers and Mackay coming back in, Evans out and Young, of course, but so do Hawthorn, because Sam Day comes back in as highly rated, Will Day is highly rated as any youngster coming through. So I think it makes it a more interesting contest for tomorrow night. There's no question about that.
So Will Day's return, as you asked Sam about this, is no VFL for him, hasn't played since round 3. I remember Will told us that he was trying to get back with a handful to go, and he has. There's 5 to go.
Yep.
The stress fracture in the navicular sent a shudder through everybody, but here he is. And what an addition he is right now for the run-in for them.
He is to Hawthorn what Hayden Young is to Fremantle, and I was really interested in the way that Fremantle brought Hayden Young back into the side. They brought him back as a sub, which surprised a lot of us. And I wonder what they'll do with Will Day. So Hayden Young sat for the first half just in his tracksuit. Did I say Sam again? Will Day. And then halfway through the third quarter, he's activated and was just devastating. He had 11 touches and was involved in that big play. So it'll be interesting to see how they bring him back. I mean, they will take no risks, so he's obviously clearly ready to go. And he makes them better, Gerard. This is important for Hawthorn. I've just slid under the radar a little bit in the last month and a half, I reckon. They're just getting wins without making a big noise. Will Day makes a big noise when he comes back.
Yeah, so just thinking back to the way his season started, opening round of the SCG, we were there, and then he was the decisive figure against the Giants in Launceston. He looked every inch their best player.
Yeah, he looked all-Australian quality, and that's what they'd always hoped he'd be, and it would appear, what we learn and from talking to him, he's a really integral part of their leadership group. Seems to takes great responsibility for what happens with the team on and off the field. So that's an added bonus coming back into that side. So, it makes for a really interesting night now tomorrow night, and Fox Footy will do a magnificent job, as they always do.
The added layer of intrigue around Carlton centres on Charlie Curnow. So change will come to the Blues, and nobody knows what that change is going to look like. The speculation that he's pondered the idea of a trade. And now you've got Tom Morris and Cal Toomey, who are dialed right into this space, who think that this is at least an active idea, a notion. Now, naturally, Michael Voss shut that down today.
Charlie's a Carlton man and he'll stay a Carlton man. I'm not sure how much more emphatic I need to be on that. So I appreciate sort of these times of the year, and when you're not going so well, there'll always be some speculation on your players, but it probably ends there for us.
Have you had to have conversations with him? Have you been one of the people he's spoken with about that desire?
No, because it's, again, speculation. So it's very hard to operate and have a conversation, even answer something on hearsay. Other than to say that, Charlie's a very important person to us, and he'll play out his career here. He's a Carlton person, will stay one.
So unequivocal, as you would expect. So through the trade evolution, you would say that most of these things don't come to fruition, but there's usually a kernel of truth. Anywhere in your mind could you see Charlie Curnow elsewhere next year?
My starting point is no, not under any circumstance, Gerard. Not under any circumstance. That's my starting position. Yep. And then just see how it unfolds from there. Yeah. But that's the position you take if you're Carlton. I'm not inside Charlie's mind. I know you've got a different opinion, and I'll get that in a moment. Vossi's opinion, as strong as it was, may not matter. And I think that's what you're about to allude to, is that he's not in a position of enormous strength. He's still got a year to go, and hopefully for his sake he gets to coach next year. But there's another man whose opinion matters more than anyone else, and he ain't telling us anything.
No, so Graham Wright has done all the work behind the scenes. He assumes the role as chief executive in mid-August, and we expect that there'll be a blueprint from there. So I think everything is on the table. Part of Wright's job is to relieve the salary cap stress, where they have a handful of players who monopolise.
So that's real,
money.
you think?
I think that part of it is real, and he was unflinching in doing that at Collingwood. He got the $1 million Grundy deal off the books after the fire sale that had happened previously. So they are stressed at the top of their cap.
Right.
So I think there is the possibility that one or two of those players, the market simply doesn't know what Carlton is doing. Other clubs are sitting there going, well, could Curnow be on the table? Could Walsh be on the table? Nobody knows. And if somewhere in Curnow's head he's going, well, I've nearly had enough of this and all the repeat cycle that happens with Carlton over and over, and if he got the tap on the shoulder and going, well, are you open to it? Well, I think there are conversations to be had in August that we won't be privy to.
Yeah, well,
but there'll be a kernel of truth in this that it might end up being the seed for something, or it might just disappear.
It would signal they're going way back.
Yeah,
if they do.
I think they'll have to go a little bit back.
Okay.
But they're going to have to crack their list open to some degree.
Well, Carlton fans need to prepare themselves for that if, in fact, that happens, because once you are open to the 64, 81, 57 goal dual Coleman medalists, or Harry, or Walsh, then you're saying we're going way back. They're hard to find, Jude. They just don't come along, those players. So if they've got themselves into a situation where Graham Wright looks at it and says, yep, we've got to empty out, well, that's been mismanagement. And they're not the only club. There's others in a similar situation. So it is intriguing. I wonder what Harry can come and knock this on the head. Harry can knock this on the head tomorrow, kick 5 goals.
Charlie,
Sarah Jones runs out with the microphone. He says, I ain't going anywhere. I love this joint. And here we go.
Kick the first goal, grab the jumper.
And I'll tell you, this is when I would take it seriously, when players are then prepared to go, I will give up $250,000 to make it happen. Because picking up salary like that's hard for some clubs.
Yep.
That's when you know you're fair income.
All right, $15 tickets available for tomorrow night at the MCG for a bumper crowds, real sense of occasion to it. We're heading to Melbourne training next. Simon Goodwin joins us before Adam Simpson and John Longmire dip into what's going on in footy right now.
And they haven't forgotten how to win after all. Hard fought, but enjoyable all the same. The Navy Blues spoiled Clayton Oliver's 200th game, but you can't begrudge them a win in another thriller against the D's.
Frustrating, but disappointed and angry at the same time. That's incredibly frustrating and angry. Frustrated, angry, reality that that's not acceptable. It's got really big lessons in it for us, and that's why we're frustrated and angry. We've made some inroads in some areas, but tonight again it showed we've still got plenty of work to do. We didn't win the game because we didn't start the game with the right intensity. And that's end of story.
The coach's journey throughout the season. Simon Goodwin on duty where the Blues, going under the Blues and now preparing for the Saints who beat them a little earlier in the season. We're at training at Casey Fields tonight. Simon Goodwin, welcome back to the program.
Evening, Gerard. Evening, Gaz. Good to be on here. It's about 2 degrees. I'm sure it's a bit warmer in there.
It is. Are there moments in a season where it's worth giving voice to that frustration and anger?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of games that we've been in recent times and, put ourselves in really strong positions to win and we haven't been able to win. And it's about grabbing the lessons of why you're not winning and learning how to win again. And on the weekend, for the second time in a month, our start was nowhere near the level and it gave certainly Carlton the confidence in the game to really press in and put up a really competitive performance. And in the end, when you don't get results, there's that disappointment and frustration that builds.
Did that spin into the review? How did you pitch the review?
Just that, I think, we're pretty clear about what we're trying to build and where we're going and how we're going to do it. And a part of that is grabbing every lesson and every game as an opportunity to grab it hold of and grow from. And the weekend was our start. And that's, as I said 2 times in the last 4 weeks where we haven't started the way we want from an intensity and role perspective. And you've seen right across the seasons, the teams that start well are winning a lot of games of footy, and we need to be better in that space, and we'll own it and get better at it.
So why is it, mate? That's the bottom line now, is I want the answers as to why, because we asked the question about what you're playing for the rest of the year, and you've been really strong about, no, we are not just going to see out time here, we want to put things in place, and yet it was, to be frank, it was uninspiring and they looked stale to start that game on the weekend. And against a team that have been in the spotlight for the best part of 6 weeks and hammered from pillar to post, to have them grab the initiative like that was particularly disappointing for Melbourne fans.
Yeah, absolutely, guys, and that's how strong the review was, is that there is an expectation when you show up and the type of team you want to be. You want to be unconditional in the competitive nature and the intensity required that every game deserves. And if you don't bring that, you'll get beaten by anyone. And we showed that on the weekend. And as I said, that's something we've got to own and get better at, and we will.
So where do you think the team sits? Is their position about where they deserve to be? They've been beaten by the 11th team, the 12th team, the 14th team, the 15th team and the 17th team on the ladder. That's a long way from where you would hope to be, I'd imagine.
Yeah, look, we sit where we sit for a reason. We're inconsistent right now in our performances, and as I said, we've had some really strong performances against some really strong teams up the top of the ladder and been really inconsistent against the teams around us, and we sit on the ladder where we sit because of those inconsistencies in our game. And they're the things that we've got to iron out as we go through this process of being the team that we want to be. There are going to be inconsistencies, but we've got to learn and we've got to grow and we've got to get better. And once we get that, those outcomes will change and we'll move our way back up the ladder. But until we really get into what is really holding us back, we're going to continue to be inconsistent. So the players have been brilliant this week. They've gone into a really positive mind around the review and how they're going to go about it. And, we look forward to our next opportunity against the Saints this week.
Yeah, well, it comes against a team that are in a similar position. Are you going to shake things up? Is there opportunity to be a bit more imaginative if the way that you line up, with the way you play? Bowie going forward late, I thought, sparked you back into the game, and it was a radical change. Was there an opportunity to move Melksham, who was well beaten by Wiedering early in the piece, maybe isolate O'Farrell with Van Rooyen? And they're the sorts of proactive stuff that I think is missing at the moment.
Yeah, look, we're obviously trying to embed a system as well about how we play, and obviously we've got a lot of younger players that have come into the footy team to play pretty pivotal roles for us. So we'll continue to evolve that, and clearly we'll look at, changing things up. We want to continue to be curious and creative about how we get better, and they're the type of things that we'll continue to look at as a coaching group and continue to implement in the next 5 weeks.
The Stephen May case has been heard, Simon. The jury's deliberating at the moment. Did you get briefed on what the case was going to be?
Yeah, look, we did. Obviously, we were pretty, after the game, it was one of those ones that was really hard to comment on because you wanted to make sure that you had all the information. And when you watch it, as often as I have, he's got a genuine play on the ball. And that's sort of where the case is heading is, what was the predictability of the ball and did he have a proper play on the ball? And obviously in the game, we don't want to see people concussed, and there are going to be incidents in the game where people do get concussed, and that's really unfortunate. But the case is being heard now. I haven't got a quite update because I've just come off the track, but hopefully we're presenting a really strong case about his ability to have a play on the ball.
So it has been a strong case, and the AFL has conceded that Stephen didn't bump. Would you feel like, notwithstanding that he's your player, I get that, but would you feel like this was an overreach on the sensitivities around concussion if this did result in a suspension?
Look, I would, and I know it's hard for me to say because he is our player, but I would think it was an overstretch. It was a wet, slippery night at the MCG. The ball skids through at a fast rate, and you look at the first 2 times the ball moves, it moves forward very quickly. It's not to the last on that commitment of going at the ball and taking the ball that the ball bounces in a different direction. So the whole way through, Stephen was looking to win the ball, and I think it would be an overstretch to say that concussion gives him 3 weeks.
And he wouldn't have played anyway this week from a concussion point that he got the knee in the back of the head. How's he pulled up from that?
Yeah, look, obviously he's had a few days away from the footy club and has jumped into the protocols, but he's here tonight. He's smiling. He's in pretty good spirits. He's obviously pretty nervous about the case, and he was pretty anxious about it straight away. He came to the bench, straight after the incident, obviously with the blood rule on his shoulder, and he was a little bit confused and didn't know what else he could have done in the incident. So right from that outset, he was pretty anxious about where it was heading tonight.
Making the team better next year is a focus, obviously. The name of Joe Daniher has emerged. Have you spoken to him? Have the football club been able to get in touch with him?
I might have sent him a cheeky text message just to check in with Big Joe. Obviously coached Joe at Essendon in my early days as a coach, and just sent him a message just to check to make sure he was enjoying retirement as much as I thought he would, and the answer was pretty clear. He's enjoying it. So it was pretty short-lived, but we're going to leave no stone unturned in how we get better. Whether that be through the draft, through the trade, through developing our players on our current list in terms of how we look and how we play. So we're going to leave no stone unturned in how we go about getting better. And Joe was a sneaky text, but he laughed it off pretty quick.
All right, so you have to shake the tree a little bit. Is a key forward your priority? That is so easier said than done, but do you have to shake the tree to see? I mean, Charlie Curnow has been linked with the idea of perhaps a trade. Do you have to, if there's no stone to be unturned, do you have to ask every question?
I'm sure our list management team are asking all the questions needed in that space. We want to get better, and clearly, we're a very inexperienced forward line, so that's an area of the ground that we want to continue to bolster and get better and grow quickly. So we know it's an area that we've needed to get better for a period of time, and that's the part of the ground that we'll certainly look at.
Last one from me, we look to maybe give Max a lighter load in the next 5 weeks. I know he's been ploughing ahead pretty hard, but can you lighten his load somewhat and maybe redeploy him?
Yeah, look, you can have that chat with him if you want, Gaz. He's a pretty competitive guy. Clearly, we've got to look after him, but, he's a competitor, he's a leader, and he wants to do the best thing for the footy club, and he knows the importance of the next 5 weeks for our club to grow, get better, and we need to start to get some positive results. So, he wants to play, he wants to continue to lead this footy team, and we'll make sure we look after him at the same time.
Simon, good to have you with us. Good luck over the next couple. We'll see you in a fortnight.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, guys.
Simon Goodwin, the Melbourne coach, with us from Casey Field, where the pumpkin soup will be served in a few minutes' time.
So there's a bit of spice in it, Jared. Drop a chilli flake in there or something.
Adam Simpson about to join us.
With a lethal kick through the middle, releases off. Rioli with a big chase, about to be run down. He's got him! What a chase from Rioli! Brilliant! Team-lifting stuff for the Tigers.
Here's Hoff. The pace is coming in the chase. It's Rioli. He's going to get him. That was fast.
That's the best chase I've ever seen.
Attacking kick to Hoff. In the middle of the ground, he takes a bounce. Oh, look out, he's been pursued by Rioli. Oh, what a tackle. He tapped him. Yes, Rioli run him down and won the tackle.
He wants to play on and the run from behind is off. What's the options on now? Have a bounce. He has two. Rioli's fast. Oh, holding the ball, surely. What a chase and tackle by Rioli on Hoff. That is terrific stuff by Rioli Jr.
Wow. Play of the day so far, guys. That was beautiful.
Simo infiltrating the quad call. It's become a consistent theme.
He's only been in the Cape for 5 minutes.
Should I get the big bucks for that?
He understands that's a highlight reel that's going to be in perpetuity. What's the word I'm after? Perpetuity for a long time.
Adam Simpson, welcome.
Hey, boys. Nice stitch up.
John Longmire, hello.
G'day, gents. That's probably one of the highlights, the best chases I've ever seen in my life. And Simo, that was the most understated comment you've ever imagined.
Oh, mate, that's his job. He's a small forward.
The Tribunal tonight, so we're awaiting a verdict.
Yeah.
You're just looking at how a player evolves.
Oh, well, we've all evolved a little bit from, might have been, I don't know, this 2016, this clip you're about to see, and this was May at his worst. We'll put it up now, just a comparison of how you actually treat these situations where this was probably, I mean, he got weeks for this. So, as much as it was a bad result on the weekend, that's what we used to do. And, you know, they make the highlights packages on a Monday, those type of things. So, we've all evolved. Not as deliberate looking now.
Game's come a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for the better.
A decade on, not leaving the ground, not tucking the shoulder in.
Running past the ball.
The AFL has said this is not a bump. Is it still a suspendable offence if it's not a bump, do you reckon?
Horse can touch in on this because we're a little bit confused, really, because there is something about, and we've all been in that situation where you've made a bump semi-deliberately, not, you know, I'm going to hit this guy, make it look like it wasn't deliberate, and whether he did that or not, who knows? So, what do you think, Horse, with all what you've seen?
Oh, look, you know, when at full speed and you're talking about, I think they might have mentioned the bounce of the ball, or, you know, the shape of the ball, and should have taken that into account. Well, I don't know who can take that into account. So I just think it's about what's reasonable. And I don't know, when you're looking at that with, you know, in real time, you know, what many options he had, if any. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see what the result says.
Yep, the explanation will be interesting. So shortly we should get that. We love it when you've had an incursion. And John, you've been in NRL heartland with the Roosters and Trent Robinson. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I guess one of the great things being up here in Sydney is you're exposed to many different sports and other codes, and in particular coaches. And Trent and I have been friends for a long time, and he asked me to come in last week and spend a bit of time there at the Roosters, and it was fascinating. It was great to get back in the change room, I guess, and for a start. But you know, I went along to the game. They played the Cronulla Sharks down at Shark Park, and you know, it was really interesting. I mean, a couple of things to come out of it would be the similarities we have in as far as how we run our meetings. I mean, we have forwards, backs, mids. They have left edge and right edge, offence and defence. There's not many times players actually swap edges, and that's got to do with what
what arm they carry the ball under and what hand they pass it with. So left edge and right edge centres and how they play their games. There's a lot to it. There's a lot more than what people think. When you look at it, they talk about pattern recognition. They talk about angles a lot. There's a lot more technical aspects to the game than what I think a lot of people that may not know the game appreciate.
No, I'm sure that's the case. We think we're the smartest code in the world. I'm sure we've evolved to the point where we're at the cutting edge. What about stats and numbers like that, which have become such a big part of what we do from a coaching point of view, from a media point of view? What sort of an impact does it have?
They have stats, and they certainly that's relative to their game. And you get a feel for that pretty early in the game about what the stats they're looking at. Not a great lot of vision that's used in the NRL in general during the games. I think if you look at the State of Origin games, for instance, and the chat that happens at half time, there's not a lot of that happens in the game. So that's a little bit different. During the week, it was really interesting the wrestling and grappling tackles that happen inside in a padded room, I guess, but with no boots on, but full-on contact before training. And that takes your breath away when you see the big boys going at it and going at it hard, but also talking about the technical part of the game. It's not just brute force that has a big say in it, but it's a lot of technique involved as well to make sure that A, you stick to tackle, and B, you don't get injured.
Is that grappling stuff done as a concession to full contact training, so they're not banging heads and concussion concerns and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I think how I understand it, Gaz, it's actually to teach them the right technique as well. They've got coaches that teach them the right technique to be able to do that, and they need to be able to practice that at pace so they can practice it. So when they get into games, they know how to actually cope with it. So it's important, the balance, and I guess that's something that the AFL will be looking at, contact sessions, exposure during a pre-season, for instance, and I'm sure that's on the agenda of the AFL. And what's the right balance as far as what's too much, not enough? They certainly need some to be able to practice it so you actually don't expose yourself too badly in a game.
How did you see the people management side of things from a coaching point of view with the players, like different backgrounds, different histories, different dynamics? Was it similar to what we do, or was it a different environment?
Couldn't be speak more highly of that. I mean, Trent Robinson, Craig Bellamy, Ivan Cleary, these guys are world-class coaches. They're as good operators as there are in the coaching game, and a lot of things I learned from. And so you're sitting there and you're looking at it, and the way that Trent interacts with his players and is very important. And he's able to get the message across in a really smart way and understanding all the differences that are associated with, in many cases, different cultural backgrounds as well.
All right, to the projects at hand. So you've taken Fremantle, Simo. As we thought we'd give you Collingwood, John, is from your experiences last year and trying to lead the competition for a long way. How challenging is that?
I guess a little bit like Pride of Jenny, Gerard. And if you're going out and having a crack early, look, it was interesting. Last year we went through a block in the season. Towards the back third over 6 weeks. I think we won one game in 6 weeks, but 3 of those games were lost by a total of 5 points. And so you've got to be able to determine what's real and what's not, and don't jump at shadows. And how much of it's actually got to do with just having a poor run of injury at that particular point. I mean, if you're looking at Collingwood, they've only got lost a couple of games. They've got some injuries. I just see this week's, obviously they play the Tigers, but the next 4 weeks they play finals contenders, and if they can come out of that with a 2-2 type run in going into the finals, I think they're in great shape. I mean, the last 5 games last year before the grand final, we won 5 in a row. So you can go through a patch of form that's associated with injuries, and the real key is what's real and what isn't. And, making sure that you don't jump at shadows during that period, what you need to tweak. And in Collingwood's case, the next 4 weeks after this week, they play high-quality teams that are in the hunt for finals. It could be a really important period for them to sharpen the axe a bit going into the final series.
The competition doesn't reward finishing first in the way that it might. It really is 1-2. Do you have a view on... Do you chase the minor premiership, or are you just looking to shore up home qualifying finals?
No, for me, it was always about just making sure that you get a home final first up. The rewards just simply aren't there for finishing on top, and which is a shame. And I think that should be changed, and we'll certainly looked at to encourage that type of run to the line, making sure that that's rewarded over a course of a season. I think that's important for the AFL to consider. But for mine, it was always about just trying to get a home final, and if you could get a home final first up, I think you're in great shape. Doesn't mean you can't win it, clearly, if you don't get a home final. But if you've got the option, you'd much rather take the option that Collingwood have got. I'd much rather be, there's pressure everywhere. I'd much rather be at the front than just fighting the other 17 teams.
What about Freo, Simo? So a side that you know as well as anyone, did you enjoy it? Well, you would love what they did against Collingwood, but have they done it in a bit of a different way?
Well, they did, but I think, and we're talking to Horse about this today, about the evolution of a style of play and a list build. And I know Fly mentioned something about maybe they should play like that all the time. And you know, you can all play a different way. You don't have to win playing Collingwood's game plan, by the way.
How have they gone down the coach?
Yeah, I don't know. He's got more class than I have, Longy. But what they did in the last quarter was a little bit different. You know, obviously they pushed a button and it worked. And the evolution of Fremantle now is with their age profile. They're still pretty young. They're the 12th, 13th youngest side in the competition on the weekend. But they were number one at clearances last year by a mile. And they couldn't win a game. In fact, they didn't win a game if they didn't win the clearances. Now they've changed. Some of their stats that you'll see in a minute where they're winning differently. You know, their back half game's actually in pretty good health. Their clearance numbers and scores from stoppages have dropped a fair bit. So they're going through this phase, and Horse and I spoke about this, where you don't want to be number one at one thing. I've said this before. You want to be top six at everything. And they're heading in that direction. They've got to tidy up that score from stoppages from a final result point of view. But they're the type of things you look at as a coach. And then you get to the last quarter and you go, this is not working for us. Let's try and take on the corridor, or let's try and do something differently. And that wouldn't have worked last year for Fremantle. And I've seen them enough to know that they're evolving in a maturity point of view where they can change the style midstream. And that's the next step, Horse, that we see. And as coaches, we grow towards the back end of the year.
I reckon it's really important to acknowledge that sometimes it's not just a matter of switching a switch when you're a younger team. They're still developing. They're a younger group, and so what we saw on the weekend was them, you know, turning the switch on probably for the first time. It doesn't mean it hasn't been tried before and hasn't really clicked, but they might be at the stage now where they just got that maturity to be able to turn the switch and go into a different style, as Simo mentioned. So it's important to understand, you know, they're not the oldest, most experienced team in the competition. They've still got some youth, but I thought it was a great sign that they were able to switch, and maybe that's another level of maturity they've got.
All right, so show us what it looks like.
Yeah, well, so this is the first clip is just what their MO normally is. So last year they spent a lot of time being number one clearance. I think it was almost the best clearance year of any team in history, and they sent up a half forward here to pressure the back of the winger, play 5 forwards in front of the ball. There's your 3 talls, get a bit of separation. If you're going to play 3, you have that little bit of a triangle look. Just get a surge out of a clearance. Dirty football, really, no pure type of play. Bit of isolation, and Voss runs on and kicks a goal. Now that's they're your standard score from stoppages type of goals, but they've had to do it differently in the last month or two. They've had to score from the back half, and this last quarter, not only was it back half, it was more corridor bias. So this would have been a conversation at 3/4 time. Can we set up for down the line plays, more corridor than straight? And you can see that we call these post plays, setting up for a more corridor bias kick, which allows a crumb, and this is where you get your speed. Your half forwards set up lateral. You've got Pendles there sweeping. Feels safe, but it's not. And these half forwards are programmed to do these from these plays where they get in front of the play, they've got the licence, and that's how you get your speed. So back half transitions, one thing, using a bit more corridor bias in the last quarter is a coachable moment because you've got to set up differently. But those half forwards are the same.
That's not like aggressive corridor, though, is it? That's a subtle adjustment.
It's a subtle adjustment, but as you can see, the dynamic of where these forwards are running is corridor, and then the last clip you'll see in a second is distinct change in style. So they're the 2 post plays, and then you get this play here where, you know, Collingwood are number 2 in the competition for midfield pressure. Fremantle number 2, midfield pressure. And this is what's happened the last month, where they've got a lot better in this phase of the game. And when they get the ball back, there's an opportunity to go skinny or go back through the corridor. You can see a distinct change in behaviour of, I can go skinny, but I've been told to go corridor in this particular play.
So is this waiting for what the game gives you as well? Like, it's not, some...
This is coaching. Yeah, this is three-quarter time.
Right.
This is not working.
So it doesn't have to work it doesn't have to be that way from the opening minute.
No, with some coaches, that's their style. But some coaches decide to go, this is not working, we need to do something different. But we've got our system, we've got our method, we've got our running patterns, but we need to get involved in a different way in the last quarter. And I don't think they would have done that earlier in the year, let alone last year.
Terrific. Simo, great. Horse, terrific.
And your boys.
See you again next
Good on
week.
you guys.
Adam Simpson and John Longmire with us on 360. On Monday nights, our current day coaches, Craig McRae, who has his Magpies on top, and Matthew Nix. The Crows are looming. These might be two of our top three, so right in the thick of it, McRae and Nix on Monday. Time for our Pointsbet update with Bernie Vince. Bernie, welcome.
Thanks, Gerard. I want to take you to the Q Clash Saturday afternoon on the Gold Coast. Now, 20 mil of rain expected. Now, these two teams had very interesting results in the wet. Brisbane 4 and zip. Gold Coast, on the other hand, zipping 3 in the wet weather. So keep that in mind if you're having a bet on this one. And because of that 20 mil of rain, there's going to be a lot of stoppages in this one. So let's have a look at the Q Clash Centurions. I think all 4 of these players can have 25 plus each, obviously adding up to 100 plus disposals between them. If you agree with me, we'll give you $4.50 here at Pointsbet. All those odds plus a whole heap more can be found on the Pointsbet app. Have a great week.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
They'll never admit it, but some games mean just that little bit more.
It's the rivalry that divides the state.
These two sides generally don't like it.
First up, Friday night in the Harbour City. It's the Giants and the Swans, the game's newest rivalry.
Don't and ever let any club or player dominate you.
But already so much history between these two.
This is the greatest showman!
The Bloods have a pulse, no margin for error.
Swans season has life!
Toby Green and his Giants would love to be the ones to deliver the knockout blow.
The Green Machine!
Super Saturday, what a way to kick it off live from 12:30. The biggest Q clash ever.
Well, it's reasonable to say they don't like each other.
These Lions have dominated the battle for Queensland.
The Gold Coast Suns are still Brisbane's bunnies.
Bad luck, little brother.
It's now 12 out of the last 13. Maybe the scars of the past are still there.
As if turning that around wasn't enough motivation for Dimmer's Suns.
Every good side I've been a part of gets a kick in the nuts at some stage. Today was our kick in the nuts.
Are they ready to finally stare Big Brother down?
Maybe, just maybe their time is now. We're expecting some fire in this contest.
Next up across the Nullarbor, the Derby, the game that divides the West in two. If there's one rivalry they all defer to, it's the showdown. Kenny's last showdown.
He is floating on air now!
He knew the enormity of this occasion before he even coached in one.
The showdowns are big, and we need to make them big. And I'm sure they'll be coming at us 100 mile an hour as we'll be coming straight back at them.
Well said, Kenny. 57 meetings of Adelaide and Port Adelaide going at each other 100 miles an hour.
Oh, what a mark against the grain. Is that a game saver?
On the field, in the coach's box. Now for Ken Hinkley's showdown swan song.
It's time for Kenny to leave. See ya.
He'll attack it like he always has.
Monfries has kicked the goal.
100 miles an hour.
To cover himself in glory.
Round 20, where winning means just that little bit more.
The scenes at the Adelaide Oval.
Right here on Fox Footy.
Now that's rivalry. The First Crack preview in a few moments' time. They're still deliberating at the Tribunal. David Zeta, what is going on?
Oh, it's been a long one. It's a very interesting test case, isn't it? So they have taken over an hour in deliberations at the moment, still going as we speak, but I'm very confident we'll have the result for you in First Crack preview over the next half hour or so. So it's either 3 games or 0. Stephen May has put his case forward. He says he was expecting to win the ball. He's not sure what else he could have done. The AFL says he should have slowed, changed momentum and potentially done a bit more to exercise a duty of care than he did at the time. So they're weighing up a fair bit at the moment and they should be coming back in the not too distant future.
Put it on the line, David, quick.
I think he gets off, Gaz. I think he gets off.
Okay.
All right, we'll know soon enough. The weekend picks thanks to Pointsbet. What is your round 20 headline?
I did these at 1 o'clock this afternoon, Gerard, so I went with May play. So I thought we'd know by now. So I had one up my sleeve, but I got him playing. So we'll find out in the next half hour.
We will. I've got a bit of Rocky. Saints ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. They're losing to good teams. Now they get a look at Melbourne. We're about to find out.
You have to explain that one. Is it a music reference?
No, Rocky 3.
Oh, Rocky 3.
It's all the good stuff's in Rocky 3. Plot twists.
Charlie spotted having coffee with Buddy.
Oh, now that...
Wouldn't that set the cat amongst the pigeons? How'd you do it? How did you just put everyone off the scent and arrive at the Swans?
Oh, I'm inspired by that promo. Kenny rouses for his final showdown.
I'm going over for that. I hope they do get whipped into a frenzy.
Last dollar.
Giants for me. I'm putting my money with Tobe in the big bounce back. You?
A Sam Doherty goal. They'll get him a goal.
They'd have to. In fact, Hawthorn should give him a goal. If they're 10 goals up, they should kick one. They should turn one over for Sam.
Reprise round 1 2022 and all to him again. All right, see you Friday night.
Yes, indeed you will.